Good evening, everybody. We're sorry that there aren't more seats for everybody. It's so great that we have such a wonderful turnout. I would like to welcome everyone to tonight's All Candidates Forum. We thank the Cranberry Ratepayers, the Townsite Ratepayers, and the Wildwood Ratepayers Association for sponsoring this event. We also recognize that we are meeting tonight on the traditional lands of the Klamath people. For those who don't know me, I'm Paul Schachter, the moderator. I'm involved with community engagement and social improvement affairs in Powell River. We are happy tonight to have almost all the candidates here. We're missing Bill Hopkins, who has the flu, and Glenn Holstine, who I don't know why we're missing him at this point, but whether or not he comes in the middle of the meeting, we'll find out. Each of the candidates will make an opening presentation. Then they will answer the 3 ratepayer questions. Following that, we will have our longest segment, questions from the floor. At the end, each candidate will be able to make a short closing remarks. That's our format for tonight. We'll move right to the opening presentations. The mayoral candidates will go first, followed by the council candidates.
Can you possibly turn up the volume a bit?
Higher. Okay, we'll see if this works better. Hey. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes. Time limits throughout the evening are strictly enforced. Roland Miller from Cranberry Ratepayers is the timekeeper. When there are 15 seconds remaining, he will raise the yellow card. When time is up, he'll raise the red card. If the candidate keeps talking, he's going to ring a bell. There it is. And at the very end, we have the clapper. Our first speaker is Stuart Alsgaard, candidate for mayor.
Well, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me without the microphone? No. We're a city in transition. An open, transparent, and frank consultation with all taxpayers encourages realistic, productive, strategic planning. Citizens, ratepayers, community and business and public service organizations are too often left out of the consultation process, risking the loss of new ideas and opportunities. I've always believed, and I continue to believe, that I work for you, and that council should not only consult with the public with more than just a moment of political openness, but from time to time ask directly if you are prepared to accept and pay for a new direction in important matters. Start thinking what function or service is really needed and look at different ways of providing it. Make the city better for the people. A mayor is elected by the people, not the council. A mayor has a charter job description. It's leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Candidate for Mayor, Dave Formosa.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming here tonight. Both Stuart and I were born and raised in Powell River. Both Stuart and I have publicly stated that we support the concept of co-treatment and voted for it. Both Stuart and I have stated if elected, we would support a referendum on the question of co-treatment. I would also like to add, to that referendum the fire hall and the library. If elected, this is part of what I intend to do in the first 3 months. I would seek council support to instruct staff to create a list of pros and cons on the co-treatment versus consolidated treatment and the costs and implications, tax implications of both scenarios to be made available to council and the public so that we can have an informed decision on the referendum. I will propose to council and push to create a bylaw that clearly states when we create taxation for short-term borrowing on certain projects, that taxation is reversed when that project is paid for. I will contact and encourage corporations and home-based businesses to relocate to Powell River by showing them the advantages of living in a small community, a safe community, and the low cost of living we have here. I will help staff to find ways to streamline application forms and processes to guide them and new investors to overcome hurdles when applying for business license and permits. We want to show potential new investors that Powell River is open for business. I will try and set up a meeting with the Premier and Minister Lekstrom and our regional chair to talk turkey on the key issues that we are challenged with on our ferry fares. Tourism and growth are being... Thank you. Am I done? Oh, well, thank you for listening.
So we'll now go to the candidates for council. The first speaker is Gordon Crawford.
My name is Gordon Beaver Crawford. The reason I'm running for council, I'm unhappy with the direction council has taken. They have not consulted you, the taxpayers, and the seniors of Powell River on projects. You don't choose a system without first finding how much the flows are, because you can't design nothing unless you know what's going through it. Dealing with co-treatment, there's no advantage for the city, no advantage at all. They're pulling numbers out of the air. It's just a system of subsidizing catalysts for their taxes. We got to look after Powell River, the same as we got to go back to the old committee system where citizens are on the committees so that everybody knows what's going to happen. We have to keep each of the villages, as I call them, Cranberry, Wildwood, Townsite, should be informed when there's money coming up for improvements. Everybody should be involved. And the only way you get involved is if council allows you to be, not just when they got to meet a criteria. The most important part is that we build and do things that you want, not what our dream is. I'm an employee of yours because you're paying councillors' salaries. It's important that we look after municipal business, not after business. Business can look after themselves. They got there by themselves, they don't need us. We just have to make sure our regulations are complementary to them. We have a bad system right now that chases business away. Thank you.
Candidate for council, Mayor Laston.
Good evening. Glad to see so many people here tonight. My vision for Powell River is to work toward making sure we remain a successful community, searching for new business to support our tax base, but keep all the wonderful things we love about Powell River and keep our environment safe. I have 10 years experience on previous councils where we completed many successful projects that benefit the citizens and organizations of Powell River. I have held directors' positions on organizations that support culture and sport, affordable housing, and seniors. Going forward, we have infrastructure challenges ahead of us, as well as being realistic about our ability to tax. Having lived in Powell River for 43 years and worked at the mill for 30 years, I believe I have a well-rounded knowledge of this community and its needs. Thank you.
Candidate for council, Chris McNaught.
Thank you very much and welcome. My commitment has been to get the job of local government done, and that's where my focus has been. I've been a strong voice on council, working collaboratively with my colleagues while providing personal leadership on specific initiatives. $24 million residential care facility, $17 million of waterfront development, completion and adoption of the Sustainability Charter, resolving major industry tax issues and keeping jobs in Powell River, and the city review. This city has spent years or even decades mulling over problems and solutions. Sewage treatment and flat tax are hangover-like symptoms previous councils were unable to resolve. This council has made it a priority to tackle both of these matters, making forward-thinking decisions for a community that is working hard for a sustainable future. But I must say, these issues pale in comparison to the real challenges we're going to face in the next 3 years. The desperate state of businesses in our local economy, the absence of jobs for youth, families, and young entrepreneurs, transportation costs that have broken through the ceiling of affordability, rising business and residential property taxes, and the ability of our city to afford to sustain services and infrastructure. These are the issues that demand our careful and immediate attention and consideration. Drawing on my personal, provincial, regional experience in government, business, and community, I will address our economic challenges with the same commitment to get the job done as I've done for the past 3 years. Thank you.
Council candidate Scott Lukianchik. Did I say that right, Scott? I'm sorry. Close enough. Keep the microphone as close to your mouth as possible.
Thank you. Good evening. Hello, my name is Scott Lukianchuk, and I moved here with my wife Caroline and daughter Natasha in 2007 to be closer to my wife's family, some of whom are long-term Powell River residents. We wanted to get away from the craziness of city life and have time to watch our daughter grow up. Since coming to Powell River, I've served the community as a member of the executive at the local Legion and volunteering as an instructor with cadets working with teens. I enjoy the diverse arts community with my wife and daughter, as well as the great outdoor activities available to us in Powell River. At the age of 17, I joined the Canadian Forces. After my release from the military, I spent my working career in construction. I know hard work, and it doesn't scare me. And I know that being a city councillor requires a tremendous amount of time, a commitment to time. For me, being a city councillor will be my #1 work priority, and I look forward to taking on that challenge. I want to see a better future for my daughter and make our home the best community it can be. Our children are our future. Let's give them a reason to stay in Powell River and not watch them all leave. I'm firmly against the co-treatment. I've read the information available and I do not believe it's in our best interest. I believe that the city should have its own facility run by the city. If elected, I'll be representing you, the voter, in the issues that are important to the public, not my own agenda. It's time that the voters were listened to. My platform is simple: more jobs, innovative ideas to solving problems, and more consultation with the public. Thank you.
Candidate for council, Maggie Hathaway. She gets 2 minutes. We're taking a half minute or something else.
Hand up, Maggie.
I'm making deals already.
As close to the mic as you can with your mouth.
My name is Maggie and I'm running for office. I've been there 3 years, so I'm not a novice. I will tell you why you should vote for me. Once I'm done here, you will clearly see I have a vision. I live in Powell River, an isolated place. There are lots of issues this council must face. The big one just now is getting rid of our poop. Who knew this issue would create such a whoop? Canada's paper says they'll do the task, but there are some in town totally aghast. Is this a P3 or a contract for service? All this negativity is making me nervous. As I write this ditty, I sit and wait for a BC ferry. Guess what? It's late. The cost of the ride may mean the end of our town. I plan to work hard to turn this around. I have a vision. I'm optimistic even though times are tough, things will get better soon enough. We need to be strong and work as a team. I want to create and fulfill a dream. I have a vision. My vision has the harbor full of boats. People are swimming and fishing off floats. Our golf course is full, the canoe route is packed, the hiking trails are fabulous, that is a fact. In winter we snowshoe and curling is fun. We have lots, it's true, but we are not quite done. We need to revive and refurbish the old and welcome all newcomers into our fold. I have a vision. I envision people arriving every day to enjoy our paradise, maybe even stay. There are lots of little shops and industry is booming. The economic crisis is no longer looming. That is my vision. Please help me make my vision come true. Get out and vote, whatever you do. If you vote for Maggie in this election, you won't be sorry for your selection, for I have a vision. Thank you.
Next speaker, candidate for council, Jim Powell.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see so many familiar faces here tonight. My name is Jim Pong, and I'm proud to be able to stand before you this evening and say that I am a member of your current City Council. I'm proud to have been able to follow up on the good work done by your previous council that was committed to putting the necessary plans in place so that we were able to deliver so many valuable new assets to the city's infrastructure over the past term. Those of you that know me well know that I approach every day with a positive outlook and a smile on my face while going about the day's work. In my mind, it takes a city council that comes together as a positive, committed, and hard-working team to get the job done. I can assure you, with the experience I've gained, I am committed to bettering our community and honoring your trust. I look forward this evening to answering the ratepayers' well-prepared questions that go to the very heart of what the local election is all about. Protection of our environment, job creation for families, holding the line on taxation, and ensuring that there is a fair and equitable distribution of goods and services for all within the city of Powell River.
Next speaker, candidate for council, Russell Brewer.
Hi everyone, my name is Russell Brewer and I sincerely thank you all for coming tonight. I've lived in Powell River for 13 years now and moved to BC 21 years ago from Manitoba after touring here on a bicycle and realizing this is where I wanted to be. I'm 43 years old and have 2 children, a 13-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. For the past 6 years I've been working as a forester with the Ministry of Forests. Prior to that I managed my own forestry consulting company that employed between 4 to 10 people. A good friend recently told me that leadership and community service is not about elevation to power, but rather it's about submission to duty. A submission to duty that I believe is critical to ensure and help realize a vision for a healthy, vibrant, culturally diverse, respectful, and sustainable community. I've always been involved in volunteer efforts, community service, and nonprofit organizations. I'm currently involved in a number of organizations that reflect my values, heritage, and passions, including the Cycling Association, the Métis Society, the French Club, Tourism Powell River, the Outdoor Recreation Users Group, and the Track and Field Club. Serving as one of your counselors is another way that I see being able to help build a healthy, vibrant, culturally diverse, respectful, and sustainable community. I hope that in doing so I can help convince others to become involved and contribute. When people are asked about what they want in a community, what shapes how they feel, the top 3 things are consistently arts, cultural activities, the openness and diversity of the community, and the availability of parks, playgrounds, and trails. I believe we can improve getting the message out to the rest of BC and the world that Powell River is indeed a world-class destination.
Council, Debbie D.
Good evening. Thanks everybody for coming out. Okay, well, I fell in love with Powell River in 1973. That means I'm almost a local. I think I have 2 more years. I'm a volunteer, I'm an advocate, I'm compassionate, I work with a passion, I'm fierce, I'm a fighter, and I'm a Harley rider. Issues, we all have them. Some say the most important issue we face is co-treatment. To others, it is waste energy. Others think our most important issue is ferries, and others think that rising taxes and the flat tax are the most important issues. For others, it is public involvement. For some, keeping the jobs we have and creating economic development is the most important issue we have in the city. For others, it is aging infrastructure. For others, again, it is a new library, a fire hall, keeping our youth here, getting them well-paying careers. We need careers for our youth. We don't need jobs. Teenagers will have jobs after school. Our youth need careers. I consider all of these issues extremely important. And at City Hall, I work with all of these issues, and I give them all equal consideration, none more important than the other. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 19th to carry on working for you and with you on these and many more issues that it takes to make our city great. Thank you.
Well, thank you, candidates, for your openings. The second segment of our program tonight is the questions from the ratepayers. We'll start with the council candidates this time, from the middle of the lineup to the end, so you know. I'll call their names when it's time for them to speak. 1.5 minutes per speaker, except for Maggie. The first responder to the ratepayers' questions will be Scott.
Thank you. Okay, question 1. If elected, what would I do to bring jobs to Powell River, and what would I do to ensure environmental protection? What would I do to help bring jobs to Powell River, and what would I do to ensure environmental protection as part of the actions we take as a city? Well, one of the things I plan to do, and this is just to start with, would be to investigate why this problem exists in the first place, of us having such a hard time getting business into Powell River. To that end, as an example, Cooper's Boating, I would like to find out if they are still interested in coming to Powell River, and I want to see what can be done to assist this business in bringing jobs to this area. I want to find out what the problems were in the first place. Was it their proposal? Was it something on our end? What could have been done to for it to be handled more efficiently? This wouldn't necessarily solve all our problems, but it'd be a step in the right direction. I'd like to work with city staff to streamline the process for business startups in Powell River. And as far as environmental issues are concerned, any business that's starting up in Powell River would have to adhere to all regulations concerning the environment, be they municipal, provincial, or federal. I also believe that the bylaws need to be enforced properly, going so far as to even hiring more bylaw enforcement staff if it becomes necessary. Environmental protection of our beautiful area should be a topmost priority for us.
I should give Scott a couple more seconds. The candidates don't have to repeat the questions because the They've been handed out to the, I should have said that, I'm sorry, but they've been handed out to the audience. So you could just say question number 1 or environment, and they'll know what you're talking about. So we'll give you 10 more seconds.
Question 2, no. Question 3, all areas of Powell River should be included for improvements. When projects are planned, alternate projects can be looked at in other areas as well. I think a select committee could be struck to prioritize projects in the different areas of Powell River, which could then be forwarded as the budget allows. Thank you.
The next, Maggie Hathaway. 1 minute.
Boy, when he makes a deal, he sticks to it, doesn't he? Okay, question 1. I'm already working on bringing jobs to Powell River through my medical tourism project. If successful, this would certainly create jobs in the medical field. And I'm also hopeful that the patients would want to return to Powell River at a later date once they've seen our community, what our community has to offer. This would increase jobs in the tourism industry. I would like to establish and market a haven for people who can do their work from home with the use of computers. What a great place to work from, Powell River. Environmental protection has become a serious issue at the provincial level. Legislation is being written every day ensuring before our community moves ahead on a project they meet these stringent environmental guidelines. Question 2. I would not vote in favor of open oxidation ditches. Over the past 3 years, a number of you have brought some, thank you, very creative wastewater management ideas to the table. I've tried to look at them all. None of them included oxidation ditches. I attended almost every advisory committee meeting and steering committee meeting. Were co-treatment to be refused in a referendum, we're back to square one. We would need to begin looking at some of the innovative ideas that have already been brought forward and perhaps reapply for innovative funds on a different project. My concern is that on occasion raw sewage is being dumped into the ocean. This is unacceptable and we need to move forward as quickly as we can. The provincial government is bound to start enforcing the legislation and we need to be prepared. Question 3. You're quite right, the improvement projects have been concentrated in Westview. We need to have a much wider perspective on improvement projects. We have recently hired a new planner whom I am yet to meet, but I would be willing to suggest that a part of his mandate be to ensure the planning includes a much wider base, not just Westview, but...
Jim Powell.
Thank you, Paul. The first thing we must continue to do on the job front in this community is to ensure that the jobs we presently have in our community are retained, especially the jobs that pay decent wages to support families. On that note, it is very encouraging to see hiring in our mill underway and our youth getting those jobs. I believe we must take serious action to open the doors to this community like never before. For example, tax set-up incentives for new and relocating businesses. New and existing industry will be held accountable by the Ministry of the Environment regulations. We only have to look at our mill to see the high standards they are held and accountable to. I supported best practices in regards to coke treatment. I repeat, I am not in favor of oxidation ditches. We will have plenty of time to study all technologies for dealing with liquid waste, whether we co-treat in the near future or we are forced to wait for a new round of federal assistance funding down the road. Going forward, we need a well-defined strategic plan. We have hit the taxation ceiling and we must be prepared to make the tough choices necessary to live within our means. In reference to the fair and equitable, thank goodness the new track is in the town site. The new drinking water upgrade will service all residents for the foreseeable future, and we all share and take pride in the new doorstep we have created to our fair city on the waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We need to have an open for business culture at City Hall. Bylaws, policies, staff attitudes all need to reflect that culture. The new South Harbour is like exporting without leaving home and has the potential to attract new investment. So completing the Seawalk connector, developing the old barge site, and marketing are appropriate next steps. There are clean energy opportunities. A clean energy economic site would be a good starting point to attract investment. Providing support to Slam through service agreements and partnering as they realize the economic benefits of treaty will help the entire region. I will work with Council to incorporate the guiding principles of the Sustainability Charter into city bylaws, the OCP, and city policies. In response to community input, I voted in favor of best practices for odor control at the city's new sewage system. I remain true to that commitment. It is essential that we continue to construct a transparent decision-making process on the issue of liquid waste management, a serious issue that has been unresolved for well over a decade. Once the final liquid waste management plan is completed, I will support a binding referendum on the question. With the full plan, the community will be able to make an informed decision. I propose that the city develops a 20-year capital plan. That plan should have community input. This will ensure an equitable distribution of capital works throughout the community. The plan would clearly lay out capital projects, timelines, and funding. Residents would know when projects will be started in their neighborhoods. Thank you.
The next speaker, Debbie D.
Thank you. Question number 1, we need to showcase Powell River internationally. We need to attract people here. We need to show them what a place we have. Like I said the other night, we can no longer afford to be the best kept secret on the planet. We need to streamline the process at City Hall for people who want to open a business here. What we need to do is make it attractive for people to come and people to stay. We need to do projects like we're doing now with the Arts, Culture, and Sports Initiative, where we will bring people here and we will show them that we can. And if we build it, they will come. And like I just said minutes ago, we need to create careers, not jobs. Question number 1, second part. Follow to the letter and better provincial, national, and international guidelines for the environment. We need to set best practices standards here. Question number 2. No, I'm not in favor of open oxidation ditches, period. And I've said that before. My dream is for a water reclamation with the water as irrigation, for a botanical garden with the biosolids for fertilizer. I've said that before. But first, we have an opportunity for $7 million of free infrastructure. Let's take advantage of that. And let's save for the one kind of a system that we're going to use. We can't just borrow it and do it all. We can't afford to borrow any more money. Number 3, reintroduce the committee structure and involve participation from all of our unique neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
The next speaker, Gordon Crawford.
First off is job creation. The only type of jobs that we can get in Powell River are in the healthcare. Industry is not going to isolated areas no matter where. The 401, the most industrialized road in Canada, is in Ontario, and they're shutting down their industries all along the road. We have to look at industries that are going to fit into our system of living here. The environment, the first thing that people do is when they come here to talk about business, they go to City Hall. And they get turned back. They keep getting turned down, because we're not ready. All you have to do is just cross the water, go into Courtney, and see how they handle it. We don't have to invent the wheel. I never invent the wheel. There's municipalities that got it running. We go over and see what they're doing. I sat on the North Harbour Freighter Commission that got Powell River their pocket cruise ship tour because they picked up from other places. That's what we have to do. We have to follow what's in existence. As far as environmental, the provincial government's got the standard. That should be the first thing we give the people when they come in if they want to start a business. We shouldn't be playing around. That is what the rule is. Co-treatment does not work. I'll tell you, I was part of the Sook presentation, and exactly what I said to them, it was 30 to 40% more to build a plant 5 years down the road. We might as well look after our own. UBCM passed the motion that we do our own services. And that's what we got to start doing, looking after ourselves, not farming it out. We have to do that. We have to do our own business and just look after municipal business. Thank you.
The next speaker, Myrna Leishman.
I believe it's important to continue to market and expand our efforts to market Powell River. The environment must be part of any plan that the city would consider, and I would expect that to continue. I would not like to see the open ditches. We had so much grief from odor in the past that I wouldn't like to see us go anywhere near that again. I have always been a proponent that all the neighborhoods are part and parcel of the city and no one area should be treated differently. Thank you.
And the final candidate to answer the ratepayers' questions, Russell Brewer.
I believe we need to consider job creation in the context of what we have to offer. There are two areas where I believe we need to refocus our efforts. First, we have a wealth of recreation, arts, heritage, and cultural activities, amenities, and organizations that are indeed world-class and lend themselves very well to tourism-related infrastructure and development. That's why people want to move here. Second, we have an immense forest resource in our backyard that can be managed to promote a light industrial and value-added industry. I believe in an expanded role for locally controlled and managed community forests and woodlot forests for Powell River, whereby the dividends and management control remain with the community. These two areas are not mutually exclusive, and if managed in the context of the Sustainability Charter and the OCP, can be mutually beneficial for job creation and be done consistent with environmental protection objectives. Second question, I wouldn't vote in favor of any plan that was going to cast an odor over the very same community that we are advertising to the world as a great place to locate business and raise a family. Third question, many people have told me that they want to go back to a committee style with citizen membership. If citizen representation is drawn from all neighborhoods, this would involve them in just such planning and allow for real consultation and meaningful involvement. We also need a person at City Hall that is dedicated to planning and sustainability initiatives. This would help ensure that objectives of the various neighborhoods as currently outlined in the OCP and as they evolve are reflected in the activities of the municipality. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank all the candidates so far. We are ahead of schedule, which means that there's going to be more time for questions from the audience. And now it is time to open up the floor for questions. We have two representatives from the ratepayers, one on each. Oh. No wonder I'm ahead. I'm very sorry. We have the mayor.
Thank you very much. On economic development, I could talk forever. So first of all, I just want to echo what a lot of my colleagues said. All the things that they said re economic development we want to take into consideration. Also, I believe that what we need to do now is we need to reach outside the community. The mayor needs to leave the community, get out there, do some research on what corporations can live and coexist with us here in this community. Home-based businesses, you know, where people that have a business, an office at home and they travel. So we need to try and come up with a way of reaching as many of those folks as we can. And maybe we say to them, if you come to this community, we're going to pay 25% somehow of their way to get them up here. When they're greeted by the mayor, they're greeted by a realtor, they're greeted by a counselor, some of the people in the audience. We take them around the community, we show them how great it is. And, one couple at a time, or we bring 5 couples in, and they come and they buy a home. And, that's what we're going to have to do. Put lines up on the wall, how many people we bring here and how many jobs we create, and keep a tally. So, the issues that we heard here, they're good, and we need to add to that. I believe if we can create somehow, and I think we need to research, integrating the lower Sunshine Coast and the upper Sunshine Coast, and spend a little time, a little bit of money to see if we can create a road down Nelson Island and connect the communities and create a new economy. As far as environmental, we need to live with the federal and provincial rules, and we can't go away from that. We must do that. Open ditch, no. If we're going to put a sewer, it's got to be a proper, good, high-tech sewer with a building around it. As far as where are we here? We need more time.
Well, thank you very much. We were almost excluded from an opportunity to address you here, but having heard all of the others express so many ideas, I would reiterate that we are a city in transition. And the important thing here is to recognize what transition really means. We have so many other activities going on in this community, all the way from agriculture, through the forestry that's coming back, through small business building up, and through people getting out there marketing their socks off to see what they can do about bringing new faces into this community. I believe that as the mayor is an ambassador for the community, I move very quickly to make sure that anyone new coming in and applying for a license down below comes up and says hello, or I'll go down and meet them. It's all about sustainability. Are the things that we do sustainable? We have a charter. Where did the charter come from? It came from this community. And this community developed it, and it must now learn to practice it. Absolutely not on open ditches. Good grief, wherever that came from. And finally, I would say that the question here about neighborhoods and getting together there, again, it's a transitional consideration. All these neighborhoods bring unique ideas to the fore, and they see to it through the planning that they have and the volunteers who are in place, an opportunity to bring the community together and effectively. So yes, we have a wonderful future. And we are, and if we remember, a city in transition, that's the key, accept the fact. There are lots of new ideas coming in there. Let's make use of them. Thank you.
We're still ahead of schedule. So we're going to have about an hour and a half of questions. When we open the floor in just a minute, I'd like you to raise your hand if you have a question. We have representatives from the ratepayer who will come and take your name. We're going to do one from the left side of the room, one from the right side of the room, front, middle, and back. So everyone will have a chance equally to be selected. So keep your questions short, please. No speeches unless you are one of the candidates. The ratepayers' questions are pretty good models, so if you have trouble formulating your question, look at the green sheet. It'll help you. If a question goes on too long, I'm going to cut you off. Frank and tough questions are okay, as long as we keep the tone respectful. I count on you all to monitor that aspect of things. And we'll take questions until approximately 9:15. When you're the question, if you are selected as a questioner, you can name one and only one candidate to respond first. I will pick 3 or 4 or more other candidates to answer the question. If a candidate for mayor is named, I will pick the other mayoral candidate to also answer. use a preset formula that selects the council candidates at random and gives everyone a reasonable and equal opportunity to speak. Candidates have 1 minute each to answer the question. Right now, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Right. So, we're going to start taking down who you are. Keep your hand raised, and after we get a few, we'll start the question. When your name is called, we'll give you a roving mic to use to answer the question. All right, we have a few. Catch the eye of the people who are taking down. All right. She's working from the back there. All right. Okay, so we'll start the questioning while our representatives are still taking down names. State your question. Stand up and...
Yeah, my question is directed to Mr. McNaughton.
It's not working.
It's not working. Turn it on. Why say speak loud?
Go up in front. To the front.
It's out of range.
Magic touch. My question is directed towards Mr. McNaughton. Right at your mouth. The South Harbor Ocean's floor was extremely polluted and extremely toxic. Years of oil, copper paint, chemicals, and many, many pollutants were disturbed during the South Harbor upgrade. A great amount of the sludge was hauled away. Please tell me the location of where this highly polluted sludge was dumped, and how safe are our wildlife, birds, farms, fish, gardens, and any waterways from this toxic soup leaching from where it was dumped. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had to go through a very rigorous environmental assessment and application process. All of the heavily contaminated material had to be trucked away at great expense. And all of that material that was deemed to be non-toxic was approved for dumping at sea. There are sites that are approved by the federal government, and those contractors who did the work were obligated not only to provide screening and other protective measures during the whole process, but then took that material to the approved dump site and then dumped that material. So nothing that would have a negative impact was dumped in the sea.
That's not, where's the location of the dump?
I'm not sure.
Sludge was dumped. Where's the location?
I don't know the exact location. It's on the other side of Texada and in the open sea.
No, the land dump.
For the land, are you asking the land dump? I don't have that specific location, but I'll get it for you.
On that question, it doesn't seem like the other candidates would have information to be able to answer it, so I think we'll pass on to
Yes,
it.
hold it a second.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
Gordon, you take the microphone.
You bring it down. Actually, the city should have had it taken out the permit because it's a city sludge. It's zero contamination. And that permit should have been told to every member of council. That's what's wrong at City Hall, no communication. Everybody's doing their own thing and not working as a unit. Sorry.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to say, but I am on the waterfront committee, and the contractor did have professionals on staff that I would hope that they ensured that we abided by the law. Not being a professional in that field, yeah, we can't answer that question directly because I don't know, but I think Chris is committed, and I will too, Esther, that we'll find out exactly where that site is for you and let you know. So thanks for the question.
Just in response, all of council does participate in the decision processes of council. There was a rigorous, as I said, process that the city had to go through to get a disposal at sea permit and then a permit to do all the dredging. It took about a year. There's a lot of environmental compensation that was required as well. So the Ministry of Environment was actively and vigorously involved in the whole process, and I'm certain that that all of the criteria of the permit were met. So, thank you.
I don't know who to direct this to, but reference has to do with taxation. Recently, Catalyst Paper Mills taxes were reduced from 3.7 million to 2.5 million, and in order to make up the shortfall in revenue from the mill, the city increased property taxes for small business and homeowners. And the question is, prior to providing this large tax break for industry, did any incumbent councillor ask Catalyst Paper Powell River Division for accounting information relevant to the mill's financial statement? And secondly, did the company provide this information for consideration by council?
I'm going to, first, the mayoral candidates will answer that question first. Then I will pass it on to other people, but I'm not going to pass it on just to the incumbents. So I'm going to reinterpret that question to say if any candidate who is not an incumbent wants to just comment on that process, that'll be part of the answer.
Thank you for that, Paul, and thank you, John. What I can tell you is that, first of all, I think it's 2.250 million. We're taxing, not 2.5. Secondly, I personally do read their quarterly reports and their year-end statements, but I do that myself just on my sort of stock market when I go through and do my own analysis and look at stocks in my own day. So I keep a close eye on some stocks, and I do look at their financial statements, and their statements are pretty dire. I mean, all we really got to do is look at their shares, or 8 cents or 9 cents. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Of course, it's important that in our financial planning we take a great and very close look at these statements to get an indication of exactly where they are and what, in fact, in our plans we might have to do. So as David said a moment ago, it is 2.25, and the other part of it is if Catalyst, in fact, should find itself in dire straits, what then is the contingency for the city in terms of its budget planning, and where will indeed we make that up? And that has to be in our budget planning process a consideration that we address each budget cycle, and we must stay very cognizant of what goes on there. So it's an important point for us, and certainly one that we take a very close look at. Thank you.
Scott, would you like to respond?
Get a wireless one.
Not being on the council at the time, I can't say whether or not they did look at the statements for sure, but obviously they did. I know for myself, before giving a tax break to a large industry, definitely I'd want to see their tax or their income statements and make sure that they're not just looking for some extra money. especially out of the taxpayer's pocket. In the same token, obviously, weren't doing that well and needed the tax break, so the council saw fit to give it to them. Other than that, I don't have much to add. Once again, I'm not on council at the moment, so I'm not privy to the information.
Candidates want to answer the question, but we have, this is the people who are responding randomly, and we have to follow that. Otherwise, we're going to find out that different candidates don't get the opportunity.
I will.
The candidates have been advised that if they have something they want to say, they could put it in their closing.
Okay, so I think we need to stop calling it a tax break for Catalyst. Basically what this is a tax restructuring. We've gone okay, well, I'm going to try and explain this. Previous council to us also gave Catalyst a tax break, okay? It started at $5.5 million and went down to 3, something like by the time we got into council, and now it's gone down to 2.25. What this is a tax restructuring, and it goes like this. We have to come in line with the province, which is 3.5 to 1. We are at 3.65 to 1 right now. So for every dollar that is in residential tax, industry and business pays 3.65 more than that. They used to pay 25 to 1. So for every dollar that we paid in tax, they paid $25 in tax, and they just said this is too much. Long ago, when things were really good and things was booming, everything was fine, great, they could pay that. I don't see it as a tax break, I see it as bringing it in line. And I also want to say that if that mill goes down, we will have up to 25% unemployment due to the spin-off. They bring $350 million worth of money into this town. Thanks.
The last speaker to this question will be Myrna Leishman.
Thank you. I think that in the previous council we did go over the financial statements, and we did have discussions with Catalyst, and they were in that time having a difficult time as they are now, and we always looked at worst case scenario, what we would be facing if in actuality the mill did go down. So that's what we were looking at, is that how bad could it be and where we were at that time. And I think that's kind of a principle that's been followed since then. Thank you.
Questions from the left side? My left.
My name is Lila Smith, and recently we saw in the Peak 3 excellent weeks of articles about homelessness and poverty in Powell River, and I'd just like any candidate or all the candidates to tell us what they would like to do about that.
The person on my list next is Russell.
Why don't you come towards the middle so people can see you?
I'll offer a couple suggestions. These are some strategies to help promote development of affordable housing. We could eliminate development cost charges, of course, for those developments. Promote some zoning bylaw changes to allow more secondary suites or secondary houses on properties. Require a percentage of affordable housing in developments and new developments. And we need to encourage the development of existing vacant or underutilized lots, including subdivision, and facilitate residential, higher density residential near neighborhood service centers. Those would be my suggestions. Thank you.
Jim Palmer.
Thank you, Paul. This is an issue that has faced the present council from day one when we entered office. We have worked on several initiatives. But I got to tell you, it's difficult to get money to make this happen in our town. Debbie D has worked tirelessly on behalf of homelessness in Powell River, and she is still working tirelessly on behalf of Powell River, and we have yet to see the fruits of her labor, but I have every confidence that she will succeed. And in terms of poverty, what can you say? It's where we are. It's the economic times we're in, the difficulties we face. We all have to band together like never before in this town. We don't have a highway running through here. I'm dealing with students at Brooks that parents have left town and left them alone. I turned to social assistance for help. It's not easy, folks.
Maggie?
Thank you. I also sit on the homelessness committee with Councillor D. I was shocked when I saw the vital signs report that said that we're at 25% poverty rate in Powell River. That's just shocking. People are homeless, and it's hard to convince people here that they're homeless because they don't sleep on park benches. They basically are couch surfers, or they're camping in the woods, so we don't see them. But it has to end. And we received a grant and had a study done. We met for over a year, I guess it was, and looked at it every which way we can. We came up with a good report. It's online on the city's website that Alofi Consulting did on a grant. We've now applied for a further grant to gather some information on how we can start implementing the results of the study. So I'd encourage you to go take a look at it, and it's an issue that we need to deal with. Thanks.
Stuart.
Thank you. I would also encourage, if you haven't seen this, you should take a look at it. There were about 700 respondents who contributed to vital signs, and the questions that are in there are addressing many of the things that I know you are concerned about tonight. And I think some of the statistics and some of your feedback is very valuable. So treat this not as a shiny booklet to be disposed of quickly, but read it and think about what it is that can be contributed to perhaps addressing some of these. And the subject of homelessness and that sort of thing, yes, of course it's here. Every community now has it. And the most concerning thing that I realized recently was that we also have several people, an increasing number each year, who are in fact deferring taxes on their homes. And why that's happening, of course, is an individual consideration. But nonetheless, the figure is up over 500 now per year. So think about that and look at this, and then perhaps feed some of your questions and some of your proposals into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. When I address issues, you'll notice that I actually talk about what I'm going to do if elected. And I want to talk about a little story as long as I can to let Phil get off the stage again. Debbie D, myself, the school district, the credit union, and we looked at the Max Cameron School, and we looked at putting a affordable housing and seniors project in there, along with a department or an area that had place for these children that you're hearing about that are couch surfing. And within this facility, we had low income for seniors, low income for low-income people, and we had an area that was available exactly for what we're talking about. The three of us, through Debbie D's portfolio, I worked through her, we went to the government. There was no funding for this unique situation, but they were intrigued. They went, wow, the school district, the city, and a local bank? Great. So they said, we're going to help you out. So they actually did create a scenario for us to be able to get $27,000, was it, per unit? Anyways, at the end of the day, the project just didn't happen. We were close, but you know, we're not. But what I'm saying is that it's still alive, because we're looking at another facility now, and we have that same dream. And you know, if elected and if not, I will work with Debbie on that project. Thank you.
Next question.
Gentlemen, my name is John Mostat, and I have a concern. The Powell River waterfront development was headed up by Councillor McNaughton, who frequently mentions how well it was done, which is really a personal opinion and not an opinion shared by everybody. The cost overruns were never ever once mentioned in any of those addresses, but they will be borne by you, the taxpayer, of which he is not one. Wastewater management co-treatment is a similar project, taxpayer dollars, but not his taxpayer dollars. So, my question to all of you, how are you in favor of people spending municipal taxes who do not live in the area and who do not contribute to those tax dollars?
Scott.
How do you respond to that? That was more of a statement than a question, I think, but I'm not personally aware of what the cost overruns were, or if there was any. If there was some information out there that discussed that, I'd be more than happy to look at it. If the cost overruns are not, should always be available to the public because it is public funds that are being used for that project. And those things should be made clear to the public when a project is done and or finished. As far as Mr. McNaughton not living in the city limits, according to the bylaws, he is still allowed to run as a city councillor, so I guess that settles that. I don't think I have much more to say on that. Thank you.
The candidates, if they don't have much to say, can pass, and I will try to get around to them again more quickly if they do that. Chris, you're next on the list.
Thank you very much. Regarding the waterfront, staff are responsible for reporting to council any overruns on any project, preferably in advance of an overrun. So up to this point in time, we have been assured by staff that all of the waterfront projects have been completed within the budget that was approved by council. In terms of living in the community and paying taxes in the community, I'd like each of you just to think for a minute of every responsibility that you undertake in your lives. I expect that you would do it with full commitment to those responsibilities that you have. And I think I'm exactly the same. I've worked in this community as a volunteer. I've worked on the coast as a volunteer for many years. My address is in the region, but my commitment is to the community. Thank you.
Myrna.
Thank you. I did hear recently at a committee of the whole meeting that they're expecting the waterfront project to be on budget. So until we hear anything different, that's what I believe at this point. I just moved into the regional district 2 months ago, and so I think my 43 years of paying taxes in the city gives me a bit of a break, doesn't it?
Debbie.
Thanks. With regard to the waterfront cost overruns, we have heard of no cost overruns as of yet. No one has brought anything to us with the final accounting. I'd like to speak, though, to the statement about Councillor McNaughton's speaking to the waterfront and whether or not it's a good project or not. And I was down there not long ago on a blustery, windy day under a tent singing "O Canada" in 3 languages with federal and provincial and First Nations and local government and a lot of people in attendance, and I think it's an absolutely beautiful place. I'd also like to say that this waterfront committee is one of the structures that we would like to bring in for everything that we do. So Citizens were involved in this, specialists were involved in this, counselors were involved in this, and I think it worked very, very well. And I can't remember the other part of it. Oh yeah, I don't consider this, oh yes, okay, taxes, right. Well, we live in, we work in, we play in, we invest in. I think Chris and Myrna add to the economy even without paying taxes. They shop here.
Next question.
Stand up, Kenny.
Hello there, can you hear me? Test, 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 test. Mr. Elsgard, you have been in 3 years this past term as mayor. Can you tell us how many liquid waste management meetings have you attended in person? Also, addition, Mr. Elsgard, can you tell us why there has been no major industries coming to Powell River during mayor as for the past 9 years you have been in power here?
Thank you, Ken. The reason, yes, I do not attend the liquid waste management meetings because I'm not a member of that committee, and I have not been a member of that committee since its inception or since I have been in office. But I do follow very carefully what it is that goes on, and I have on one occasion actually been invited to chair a meeting so that the duty of that organization could carry on. So yes, I'm very familiar with what happens there, but I'm not a member of the committee. And the other, you asked what has happened over the last 9 years about major industry coming in here. I know it's a question you've asked many times. The answer is we worked extremely hard to attract as many as possible, but the fact is we have not been able to really catch anybody yet. So we look at the assets we have, the land we have available, what else we could make available to these people, and one of these days perhaps we're going to make a contact that will work out well. But we have to keep on trying. Put those shoes on and get to work.
Liquid waste management, I attend our liquid waste management committee meetings. As far as why we've had no industry in Powell River in the last 9 years, any heavy industry, as the mayor said, we have tried hard. We've tried very hard, and we continue to try hard. And I think what we need to do now is we need to start getting outside and bringing some fruits home with us. We're going to have to get out, get on the road, do our research, do our homework, talk to some CEOs, find out what we can find that's compatible, give them some reasons to come here. There's a lot of things we can do with capital tax, with good quality of life for the executives that they have. One of the issues I'm looking into is data farms. I don't know if you know what those are. Our water, maybe we can bottle it here and sell it, our own water. And just stuff like that. We got to get out. We just got to get out and get out of this community and work at it. Thank you.
Next question.
Somebody back there. Can you hear me?
You might be too far from the PA, George. If you come up forward about 20 feet, you might get some reaction.
Watch
on the wire up there. Okay. You hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So I'll just yell at it. The Powell River business plan that councillors Formosa and McNaughton, who in large part authored that, proposes that the city get into business deals with private partners and invest and risk municipal tax revenues in such schemes as the Run of the River project, the $30 million biomass project with
Catalyst paper.
and real estate development. Now, these are proposed projects, and they're ones that private enterprise has declined to invest in. Now, the question is, should the citizens' tax revenues be exposed to risk as proposed by this business plan, or should those tax revenues be used to maintain and enhance provision of core city services, such as drinking water and wastewater treatment, protective services, road improvements, and other municipal services? Shouldn't these risky proposals be left to the private sector? Thank you.
Next up on my list to answer, Jim Palm. If you want, you could always pass if you don't want.
Well, you caught me off guard there because I thought the question was directed at the two proponents of our business plan, but I'll take a stab at it.
It was. Did you get that?
George, you make a very good point. Risk is a factor, and in this day and age, sometimes it's worth investigating various risks if we are to somehow get ahead and become sustainable in Powell River. We can't keep doing the same thing. We know where we've gone for the last 25 years. When I got here, there were 2,700 men working down at the mill. You know what we have now. So this council, God bless them, was creative, forward-thinking, looking at all options outside of the box and exploring various possibilities. So that's what we continue to do. We will continue to do that on your behalf. We, as I said earlier, we cannot leave any stone unturned. Thank you.
I didn't interpret that question as asking for a response for Mr. McNaughton or Mr. Formosa. So I'm just going to keep going on my list. Gordon, would you like to respond to that?
First off, the city is not in venture capital. That's not our business. Our business is serving water, sewer, garbage, fire protection, policing, and also helping the homeless. If those gentlemen want to do that, let them mortgage their homes, sell some of their business, and they enter it. We have to look after you people, and our job is looking after citizens, not venture capital. And back on another one, the harbor is $1 million over budget. You had a referendum for a certain amount, and it's $1 million over. This person's supposed to be head of finance. I seem to know a little more in finance than 80. We are over budget. We're $11 million in debt. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't go right with the 25% of your revenue. That's the only debt we should have, and we've surpassed it.
Next on the list, Russell.
Well, the point was made quite rightly that municipalities are supposed to focus on core services such as roads, water, waste, emergency services. I understand the logic of pursuing alternative revenue streams. I don't agree with everything in the business plan. I do agree perhaps with securing some of the transit tax to help fund transit, to increase transit. And if we're going to pursue some kind of energy project, then perhaps it should be something like wind power so that we can meet our own needs if ever the need arises, rather than run of the river, which we can quite rightly leave to the private sector in my mind. Thanks.
Let's hear from the mayoral candidates on this question. I believe that Davey would be the first speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was probably the largest author of that plan. And yeah, one of the big issues are going to be is do we want to take that calculated risk? The provisions within the government actually created the opportunity for communities to do exactly what it is that we're looking at doing. But what the government didn't do, and I got this from a seminar where I was asked to speak at a clean energy forum, because part of our program is to create our own green energy corporation that we own. And it is with the Slam First Nation, and it's with us, and Seashell, if they may join us, may not. And there are a number of private companies wanting to queue up to join us to help us in funding the same. The issue, what's going to really come down to is, at the end of the day, if we can get an order in cabinet that will allow us to do, as George says, put our dollars at risk. Yes, it's private corporations that are getting into this at this time. What we've been trying to tell the minister is, like they're doing with forestry, where they have forest tenures now, like our community forest, which we are doing, and I heard somebody, Russ, talk about this. We have a community forest that has given us dividends of about $900,000 a year. We're asking the government to create tenure for green energy projects like Run of the River projects, so we can get one, we can build it, and we can make anywhere from $500,000 to $1.3 million a year in revenue from a project like this for our share. So you got to be bold, and there you have it. Thank you.
Okay, well, property taxation is the only substantial tax that's available to local governments to carry out the mandated core services. So we have to, in terms, think of what else is it we would like to do, and where, if that money is available, should it come from. This issue is all across the country, and it touches every city, municipality, village, and township that you can imagine. The question really now is to take a look at government taxation structure at the federal, provincial, and local levels, and to embark upon earnest discussions with the federal level and at the provincial level to say, you task us with certain things, then where's the money? Send the check, and we'll be happy to carry it out if you feel we're closest to the people and we can do this. So I think local government operates as a creature of the province, as a creature of the federal government, but at the same time it has to also make sure that there's a new formula brought forward whereby we can share in the taxation burden that already is laid upon this country. So that's the approach that I feel is the first way we get on with it. Get out there, speak at those levels, make sure they understand clearly that we need to be able to share those tax revenues. Thank you.
All right, may we have the next question, please?
Can you hear me with this? In the few short years that I've lived in this community, my taxes have been restructured up almost 100%. I'm paying more in taxes in Powell River than I did in Langley, BC, and I had twice the services down there. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. I ask you to bear in mind I have two other levels of government who are trying to restructure all my income as well. Okay, there's a limit. You say, think out the box, Councillor. The Canada Bank Act in 1933 included a clause for municipalities to borrow from the Bank of Canada for repayment plus a small administration fee. That clause was removed in 1991 by the federal government, but there is a concerted effort on the part of municipalities all across this country to get that reinstated. We should not have to go to private banking to borrow our own bloody money. We should not have to do that.
May we have your question?
Are you going to get on board with the other municipalities and explore this other revenue stream? Most of our tax increases go to pay increase for our interest. So explore this, please. Can you tell me that you're going to do this? I think it would help.
Scott, do you want to address that issue?
Yes, for sure. I definitely, if I'm elected into council, would be open to looking at any possibility of getting that revenue into our town. I don't believe in privatizing our services and stuff in order to generate income, but and I don't believe that we should be risking our hard-earned tax money either on business ventures. So the money is going to have to come from somewhere, and if we can approach the federal government, provincial government, along with those other municipalities, as the gentleman was saying, I would definitely be all for that, and I would definitely love to be on that committee. Thank you.
Maggie, can you address that question?
Thank you. I'm not sure I understand which legislation you're referring to. If you want to email me the information, I'd be happy to read it and see what, do some investigation into it, a little research. Thank you. And yes, your taxes are too high. I think all of us that are currently on council agree with that, and we're making every effort to lower them. We recently had a service review, well, it's actually still in progress, that looks at every aspect of how we run the municipality. We do need to tighten our belts. We spent the last 3 years working on some major capital projects that I'm really proud of, and I think they were extremely successful. But the next 3 years is going to be time to tighten our belt and do everything we possibly can to keep our taxes low. They are too high, we agree. Thank you.
Gordon, do you want to address it?
First off, in the financing, BC Federation of Municipalities, we finance through them. We don't go through the bank. There's already a process in place. Mr. Formosa talked about the forestry. We did not put any money into that. That was awarded to us, the forest system, and we have nothing invested. That was given to us by the provincial government. So don't cloud yourself that we are getting money back because we use taxpayers' money. We're not. We got a bonus there, and so did every other municipality who's using it. It's very important. They're starting to worry about debt. Well, debt is what runs up our taxes. And yes, taxes are too high. And there's a lot of nice homes that are overtaxed because of the flat tax. The flat tax has to be for the next 3 years. That's all I can commit to. I'm not like this council commit for 3 years, 15% a year. I was here when the flat tax was brought in because there was homeowners paying no taxes. So that's why it was brought in. Thank you.
I don't really have any information on the issue the gentleman brought up, but I would be interested in getting up to speed on it. So if you could also send me the links. Thank you.
Thanks. I'd also like to do some research on that. Anything we can do to help lower our taxes, I'm a taxpayer as well. I think you'll find that your taxes might have been lower in Langley because you might have had 5 times the tax base down there. We have 18,000 people here. We have a finite tax base in Powell River. For 40 years we've had the same tax base. Now we have an aging demographic. We haven't got the money right now to carry on with the status quo. As Maggie said, we have a core service review right now that we fought and fought as a council for 3 years till we finally got the money from the provincial government, and we hired a company and they're doing a core service review, and I'll tell you, there's going to be some tough decisions to be made in the next 3 years. We need to think outside the box if we want to think about keeping anywhere near the service levels that we have right now. We cannot afford it. And I want a little correction over here about the business plan and the AIP. The business plan and the AIP were created under the direction of Mayor Alsgaard, who tasked Dave Douglas, Dave Formosa, and Chris McNaughton and Stan Westby to write it. He's the one who was the creator of it all. It's not the brainchild of any one councillor. So just to make that clear.
May we have the next question?
It's my understanding that we're functioning without an in-house engineer at this time. I'd like to know if the candidates believe that we should have one here in Powell River.
What? Russell.
Yes, we need an in-house engineer and a planner.
We have a planner, Russ.
Oh, we have a manager of development.
No, we have a planner. We hired one.
A real planner focused on
we have a planner.
sustainability initiative. Not approving bylaw amendments.
Jim Powell.
He is a non-contractor.
Thank you, Paul. Just a question involving an engineer. I worked very closely with the engineering department on a number of projects over the course of the last 3 years. And one of the items that came up in our service review was the problem in terms of the lines of communication from the upper management staff. We have a lot of problems resulting because of a lack of a qualified engineer at City Hall. That is a fact. And we will address that shortly, the next term. And hopefully we will put to bed a lot of the problems that are resulting coming out of that department. I hate to say that because they've worked very hard over the last term on a number of projects. But we have to hire an engineer to help with management at the top to improve those lines of communication throughout the community. We need that expertise.
Chris, would you like to address that?
Simply stated, yes, we need a city engineer.
May we have the next question?
Set of minutes for both council and committee of the whole meetings. And Councilor Formosa, I'm afraid your attendance was very lacking. In the first year, you were absent 14% of the time. Second year, 24%. And this year, you've missed 30% of the meetings. At the meetings you have attended, you have had to absent yourself multiple times due to conflicts of interest. How do you feel you can do an effective job as mayor if you are only there part-time, and when you are there, you must absent yourself? And the other candidates, I'd like to know what your commitment is to the job at hand. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Karen. First of all, on the issues of my attendance, I don't know if you looked at how many times I was away attending on city business, because the mayor sends me a lot out of town to take care of city business. Sometimes for committees I'm a part of, or some that are his duties that he feels that I can help him or help the city better at. So it would be nice to know how many of those I was away for city business. When you talk about me being away for, I don't know how many, 30, I think I've been at probably 350 meetings at City Hall. I seem to spend all my time at City Hall. And I think if you talk to your mayor, and if you talk to all your councillors, you will find that you were very well served by me and represented by me, and that I was actually under the impression that I was putting almost full-time, if not full-time, at City Hall. There's more than just committee of the whole meetings and council meetings. There's all the meetings that we attend with our portfolios. There's all the special project meetings. There's all the issues that the city departments have, and we got to go to those meetings. And I was at many, many, many meetings that I never saw other people at, but I'll leave it at that. So, you know, that's that on the meetings. As far as the conflicts of interest is concerned, yeah, I did have conflicts of interest. I stepped down from them. But again, I believe that over the 3 years, for the amount of work and the time I spent at City Hall, the services that this community got from me, from the decisions and the work that I did, you were very well served. And you have to make your decision. You know, you have to make your decision. I give 100%, and you ask anybody up here, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if this is just addressing the attendance, I think that I could also say that I am a very eager attender at most of the activities of council. My attendance record is very high, and I, at the same time, respect the fact that many members of council also give a good deal of time to what it is they're asked to do. So, yes, you can look through the minutes and see those numbers, and they are significant. But at the same time, it's up to you to decide whom you feel is your best ambassador and who you wish to see occupied with some of these tasks that are assigned. So thank you.
So I think the second part of the question was to the councillors as to describe your commitment to the position of being a councillor. Next on my list, we'll say Chris, because you only had a one-word answer to the last question.
Thank you very much. For me, serving on council and city-appointed regional director, it's been pretty much full-time work. The Waterfront Committee, all of the other project and service work that we do, as Councillor Formosa said. So I think we all do put our shoulder to the task. The city is very accommodating. They have an opportunity for individual council members and the mayor to attend with technology. And I've taken advantage of that. So when I'm on holiday, I have attended meetings by Skype. I've attended 5-hour council meeting driving from Victoria. I wasn't driving, my wife was, but driving from Victoria and literally landing in Powell River, driving up the hill and then going to another meeting. So we do work at it. There is technology available to us, so I think most of us take advantage of that. Thank you.
Maggie?
Thank you very much. Thank you for doing that research, Karen. That was a lot of work. We're not paid full-time. The mayor is not a full-time job. I might have considered running for mayor if it was, but I couldn't afford to. So maybe we need to look at making it a full-time because the commitment's full-time. It's part-time for councillors as well. And before I answer, I want to make sure that my boss is gone because I do have a day job and I don't see him there. So I can tell you that I've attended probably the majority of Committee of the Whole and council meetings. And I attend the town site ratepayers meetings regularly. I attend in Wildwood more periodically. Cranberry chooses not to have a councillor come to their meetings. The transition town meetings I attend as a councillor, waterfront development, and our ongoing meetings, we spend a lot of time at it, and I intend to make that commitment for the next 3 years if I'm elected to do the very best I can to attend as much as I can. So thank you for the question.
Myrna.
I'm supposed to be somewhat retired, so I can juggle my time so that I can devote as much time as required to be on council. And having been on council before, I know how much time that does require, and it really is true. There's a lot of meetings. Thank you.
Debbie.
I give 110% to council, just like I do everything in my life. Thanks.
May we have the next question?
Well, good evening. My name is Don Krompucker, and first of all, thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. I can remember, as one who comes to just about all of these meetings when I can, it certainly is nice to see this big of a turnout. Usually you can hold most of these meetings in a shoebox, so congratulations to all of you to come out and take some time and look into your community and look into your community leaders and who you best want to choose to be your community leader. I've been on the City of Powell River's Liquid Waste Management Committee for some 10 years as their Joint Advisory Committee, as a citizens appointee. And so my question is, I've asked this a couple of times and I'd like to ask it one more time, maybe I'll get the answer I'm looking for. If the co-treatment option proceeds, would candidates clearly outline for those present here tonight the risk and liabilities facing the city should the 54-year-old number 9 paper machine be permanently shut down or the mill goes out of the paper making business? Thank you.
Scott, you're the first one up to answer that one.
No, I won't decline. I believe that there is a risk involved in that happening, and if it does happen, the city could be liable for trying to make that system work without catalyst being there, which would be a huge, huge cost. And I believe that before any co-treatment plan is put into effect, that definitely needs to be taken into consideration. I don't have obviously I don't have figures for what that would be in front of me, but contingency plans would have to be put in place in case something like that happened, and the cost of that would have to be known to the people of this town before the project could continue. Thank you.
Jim, you're the next one up, very appropriately.
Thank you, Paul. After chairing the advisory committee meetings and the steering committee meetings on liquid waste phase 3 for the past 18 months, this question has come up numerous times. And in terms of a plan, if in the event that Catalyst were to go down and we did enter the co-treatment option and direct our liquid waste in that direction, first of all, what we need is an ironclad contract. That contract is yet to be negotiated, and it is standing in waiting for the funding. If that comes through, then we will have the funds to get our lawyers, put them to work. We're not going to spend the money until we do have the funding to put that contract in place and cover ourselves in terms of legal liabilities. We've got some of the best lawyers in the business on top of working for us. And we've been assured by Catalyst that if it is to go down, we would have up to an 18 to 24 month window so that we could make modifications and have that mill still treat our liquid waste over the period of time until we built a consolidated plant. Thank you.
Russell, would you like to take on that question?
So as I've stated before, I support public ownership and operation of water and wastewater. The risk associated with the co-treatment is what concerns me about it. Everything I've read seems to indicate that if we go with the phased approach, it will end up costing us more in the end, unless I'm misreading something there. So my preference would be just to go directly to a consolidated, standalone, publicly operated facility.
Shall we hear from the mayoral candidates on that issue?
So is it my turn or not? It is your turn. Okay, well, I think as I interpret that question, if you see a machine go down, or in this instance, I think number 9 machine was the one that was tasked here, obviously that's going to affect what would be called a flow ratio, and that's going to alter certainly the municipal sewer regulation would apply, and that would require what is, you hear the word around this disinfection of the discharge into the ocean. So is there a cost? And I think that if you were to look at the Date and the Night report, which was a year ago in October 2010, that cost in there is estimated to us to be between $300,000 and $800,000 capital costs. So we need to be thinking about that. Yes, the answer is, should number 9 go down, it would leave us with a big cost in terms of how we would meet that. Thank you.
So first of all, the issue of whether we co-treat or don't co-treat, once a new council is put together, we've said that we are going to go to a referendum. So, you know, it may be a moot point, but I'm going to answer it to the best of my ability anyway, the way I understand it. And that is this, that if we were to get the $7 million grant, we would be able to build on the existing sewer facility location below the old golf course a pre-treatment facility. That pre-treatment facility would then be something that would be able to be reused along with the piping coming into that location in the case that we have to build a new consolidated plant if the mill goes down. So we would then be pumping our sewage up to Station H and from Station H into the mill. If the mill operated for the next 10 years, and let's pray they do, it may not be this name or another name, we would have 10 years to save some monies, and I think we've guesstimated around $250,000. I mean, I don't even know, that's why we need more research. A year, plus we've got $2 million in the bank. So we would be able to save, I think we would need about $11.5 million based on today's numbers of a $20 million facility. Now, is this open ditch? I hope it ain't, I'm not going for no open ditch. But regardless, it's a $20 million number that we got out there. So if the mill was to close, we are told by the mill that they can treat our sewage for 1 to 2 years, and the big difficulty will be keeping, air. It's expensive to make air go in there so the bugs don't die or what have you. In that $7 million, we would have blueprints that would allow us, that would tell us what it is we're building. So we would have to start. We couldn't decommission the one we have, because if we have to fall back and use that facility, the one we have, we would have to treat with that, because we could have, a liability. So we'd have to keep that old system there. But so what would we be doing is we would be applying for this grant. We would be getting the $7 million. Then we would be just treating. We would carry on. If the mill closed, we would have to then go find approximately $11.5 million, if it happened kind of right away within the first 2 years, to complete the system and build it on that location. If we were to go out today, we don't have $20 million. The government's not offering us 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. There's no funds available. If they happen to come along the way, then we may have an opportunity to say, okay, let's have a look at it. And that's why we're calling it a phased-in approach. So I'm all for taking the monies from the provincial government, if they'll give it to us, get the sewer out into the existing location, build that pre-treatment plant, send it up to the mill, and watch it. So that's the way I understand it. Thank you.
May we have the next question?
Oh. Okay, is it on there? My question is to Mayor Alsgaard. I understand that you voted in favor of co-treatment and that your proposal to take the question to the people was not meant to be binding. Is this correct?
I hear you said that I voted in favor of co-treatment. Thank you. I believe it was last summer, all of council took a look at the proposal and decided that that would be the route that they would go. Then, of course, taking a look at some concerns that came from, I read a letter from a citizen who wrote the minister, Minister Lake in Victoria, very concerned about the fact that there'd be adequate public consultation. Could the minister in fact guarantee that would be the case? The minister responded by saying there are two components to how this might be approved, and that is, one, the science must work. And if the science works and satisfies that, then they would take a look to see just exactly what the public had to say about it. And indeed, were they adequately consulted? And if either one of those two failed, then it would be returned here with that notation and we would have to readdress it. But it would not be approved unless both those components were very carefully looked at. So therefore, I felt very strongly that given all that I had heard, it was time then to put to the people a question, which would say, are you in favor of a concept of a partnering agreement with Catalyst to treat our liquid waste management? Let people now then have the opportunity to say, do you want to go any further with this, or do you fulfill with it, or do you want to say, stop it here? So that's what I would respond to you, to your question. Thank you.
Dave, do you want to address that further?
So the question was, did we vote in favor? I voted in favor. Yes, the mayor voted in favor. This issue of this letter from Minister Lake or what have you, I know all along the process, our staff has been in close correspondence with the Ministry of the Environment. And to the best of our knowledge, we've been doing all the things that we are supposed to do for consultation. We had our Joint Jack Committee, we had our steering committee, we had our open houses, all the liquid waste management meetings that Mr. Cronpucker and that group go to, not the mayor, that all the council goes to, they're all open to the public. And so based on all the research that our staff had told us, and I believe even our chair had called to make sure, have we adequately given the information to the community? They told us yes. Now, having said that, the mayor felt that there's still a question. So he brought the issue up and said, well, we should take this thing to a referendum. He didn't talk to us about that, but he did. And subsequent to that, I believe everybody in this council has said, okay, I mean, he said to the people he wants to give them a say, a greater say. And we, I think individually, I have said, fine, we will do that. So the issue is, we both voted for it. They said we'll take it to a referendum. I said I want it binding, because if we're going to go to a referendum, and you people say you don't want it, then we're not building it. Not like what happened with the burning or whatever. So I wanted it binding. The mayor was looking for, some research so he could, help us make our decision. And I'm not saying it was 100% wrong, but if we're going to go to a referendum, let's make it binding. If the people say we put it on top of Mount Valentine, that's where it goes. Thank you.
May we have the next question, please? Somebody lean against the light switch.
City Manager.
I'm Pat Mullum, I live on 1 Street. And I do want to take a moment. I want to take a moment to also give my thanks. Many times I've been asked why I don't run, and all you have to do is read the blogs to know why any insane person doesn't run after me. So, and having said that, I would never be accounted for saying some of the things that are said about you people. I am grateful, very grateful, and we all need it. My question is on transit, so I'll ask Mayor Alsgaard, knowing others will also answer. What can be done? What would you do? What would you all do to get those costs under control? That we have a great system, but I don't think we can afford what we have, and I know where that leads.
Okay. All right. You bet we have a great system, and it wants more people to use it. So I would suggest to you that you try it sometime and see if that schedule that is out there really would work for you. I stand at a bus stop in the morning and I watch 30 cars go by with 30 people in it. The bus comes around the corner and sometimes it has 5, maybe 10, even 20 on it. Depends what the mix is that particular day. But I would go so far as to say that our transit is growing. Transit is an expensive situation all over the province. BC Transit is working very hard to come up with an even better formula for helping us. I was looking at the possibility of a fuel tax that could be placed, such as the City of Victoria has. And could we, as to the 40 million litres of gasoline and diesel we burn in this community each year, if we had a taxation of 1 cent on that, Victoria has 8 cents, it would raise probably $400,000 that we could apply to to the transit service and perhaps then bring some of that down. The way it's funded is 47% comes as a grant from BC Transit. The balance is made up with 2 components. One is property taxation and the other is fare box receipts. We have to get those fare box receipts up, we have to get you out of those cars, and we have to think in terms of alternate transportation. So therefore, we're open to anything that you might suggest would serve you better. And we have extremely efficient, state-of-the-art buses that some people worry about running around empty all the time and costing a fortune. That's not true. They are the most efficient of public transit vehicles on the road. The smaller ones wear out at 300,000 kilometers. These things are good for about a lifespan of 20 to 22 years. So just try it. You might like it. It's great. Ride the bus.
Hello. We have a great transit system. The mayor has worked very hard of it. He's very proud of it. And, it seems like it's not used enough. We know it's expensive. But I agree, you know, if I'm talking about using clean energy as a platform to help us cut back on our taxes, you know, I can't beat up the fact that we need a good transit system. Thank you.
Council candidate Scott, you would be next up.
Thank you. This is a difficult one because the buses are important, absolutely. However, in order to fund them, as everybody knows, the cost of fuel is going up, everything else. So what do? Do we increase taxes? Do we increase fares? Who's to say? What's the better option? Ridership either has to go up or services have to get cut back. And in the end, that's going to be the way it goes. I mean, I'd love to have the public's input on what they think would work. Fresh ideas are always a good idea. Myself personally, I would be in favor of probably a fare increase before a fuel tax. I wish that we could start a program to get the ridership up. I think would help as a start anyway. I don't want to have to raise taxes if at all possible. Fuel taxes, nobody likes them. Public transit, as I said before, is a hugely important issue for us. Yeah, I think that people should support it more. Thank you.
Gordon, you're up if you want to address this question.
The only trouble putting the fuel tax on is that what happens is any revenue we raise from there is taken off from the 47% provincial government gives us. Talking earlier, everybody talked about the people who are poor and everything else. Then we should be talking with the provincial government, social service. They should be giving more passes to those people so you don't see them taking the taxi. Sorry, Dave. But they should be using the bus transit, not taking a $15 taxi to get their groceries. There are ways, and that's how you do it. But transit has been long running in Powell River. It's probably the oldest transit system going for small towns, and Powell River is a forerunner for that, and because of the mill and people working there. But any revenue that we get, it comes off that 47%. Provincial government are not very generous.
May we have the next question?
Hi, it's me. I'm not going to use my open to any candidate, not meant to put anybody on the spot. There's been talk of economic development. It's a neat thing to pursue. I've lived here 21 years. I haven't seen a lot of positive results of economic development. Not saying that it's not happening and that people aren't working hard at it. But no one's said their stand on what they would do in terms of cutting back, should we need to save money, which I'm guessing we probably need to. So I was just wondering what are candidates' ideas on what they would focus in terms of cost-saving measures as a municipality.
All right, thank you. First up on that one would be Myrna.
I think, knowing from past experience, that when we begin to look at the budget for the following year, I think that you really have to take a hard line and put some real strict guidelines on it. And I think what happens is that most departments have many things that they need and many things that they want. And I think those days are gone by the way, and we're just going to have to be a little more strict, and it's not going to be pretty for a few years, but I think that's what we have to do.
Maggie.
Thank you. As I said before, we're just finishing up a service review, and many of those very issues of cutbacks and how we can do things more efficiently will be addressed in that review. It's not a public document yet, so I'm not at liberty to speak on any of the details. Because if we can't keep taxes level, we're not doing our job. We really need to make every effort. And sadly, that may include cutting some services. I would look for efficiencies just on transit. Maybe we could partner with school board or regional district or provide services in a different way than we have before. And I think it's time that we took a long, hard look at how we are providing our services and look for those efficiencies with other levels of government and within our own service. Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you very much. Yes, as has been said, we worked hard to get $75,000 from the provincial government for the service review. The new council will inherit that document, and it'll clearly create a path for local government to make some very difficult decisions. I just want to talk about the recreation complex as an example. We pay, after revenues, $2.4 million to keep that facility open, and it's beautiful. It's important to the community. For 36 years, rural residents have not contributed a cent to the capital cost of that building, and other than a differential user fee, there's no contribution. For 3 years, I know I have, and Debbie also has with me, and council has asked the regional government, the rural directors, to participate in a regional share of contribution towards that facility. If the contribution was made on a population base, it would be $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, and if it was on an assessment base, the regional rural residents portion of the assessment is about 48% to 52% for the city. That would be a 10% tax reduction for city residents. We're a community. We're a region. Maybe it's time we start looking at a rural municipal government to resolve the tax issues that we have.
Russell, would you like to address that?
I think I would also defer, it's a good question, Lauren, not an easy one to answer, but I would also defer to the service review. And I accept if I get on, there'll be some tough choices to be made. And Chris raises an excellent point. I think we need $2.4 million to subsidize the rec complex. Yes, absolutely fascinating, great facility, but we need to work with the regional district to try and come up with a solution for that, to help fund that.
Let's hear from the mayoral candidates on this question as well. Dave, I think you're first on now.
So would you just repeat that for me, Lauren? I was writing notes here and I'll follow that.
Oh no, I just wonder what each individual thought their focus would be in terms of restraints or kind of.
Great, thanks. So, you know, I got a little bit of a rumble and applause of the complex. I said it here today. It's not really getting what I expected it would get, but I think it's a real big thing and a real huge issue. I have said, if elected, I will try and work with council strongly to convince them that when we do a new project like the South Harbour, which could be up to 4 or 5% tax increase, because it's 5-year borrowing, Weaver will tell you all about that. The infill could be another 1%. The track could be another 1%, 5-year borrowing program. I would like a law that says when we do that, when the project is paid, we reverse the tax. Right now, we just keep taxing, and adding it. So that is huge. So we're saying we pay for it, it rolls back 4%. Now, if you need some monies for something else, then bring it up. But if we just keep doing that, we get fatter and fatter and fatter, but less and less income. We had $4 million between revenue and expenses. We're now below $1 million. And we're going further. My whole platform is available on my website. I say what I'm going to do. Thank you.
Again, as has been referred to here, we are in the process of a service review, looking very carefully at all of these things. And as has been mentioned, the service review will, of course, have to pass on to the next council. But the matter that you raised about the recreation complex and the cost of the recreation complex and the user profile of that complex is such that, yes, we have to continue ongoing discussion, a good discussion, a positive discussion with those who use it outside of the city, who do not necessarily contribute to its direct operating costs. Those are all things that we're well aware of, and we're looking at them and making sure that they're going to be addressed. And at the same time, we look at the service review to ensure that this is practical. And one other thing I've got to get a plug in here for transit again is this. That our transit ridership is rising. It went up 2% this month, 1% last month. And you know that last year we carried 225,000 paid fares. Thank you.
We'll take one more question, and then we'll go to the closing remarks. One more question.
My name is Stuart Wright. I'm the user of the complex full time. My question goes to the use of the complex. For many years, I've heard concerns about the high cost of operating the center with regard to energy, lifeguards, staff wages, administration costs. I started swimming regularly when I retired 15 years ago. At that time, the cost of a pass for 6 months was $96. The last time I renewed it, in March, it was $225. If I lived outside the city, it would be more. I understand that anyone who works for the city is able to use this lovely facility without any cost to themselves. From my perspective, some of the highest paid people in Powell River get the privilege of using this complex free. It was even considered one time to allow the RCMP to use this complex, even though they have a fitness room in their building. I believe that we should level the playing field and have all patrons pay their share of operating the complex, regardless of their employer.
So that wasn't a question. So we'll have. Is there one more question?
I think that was a question.
Agree or disagree?
Yeah. Go ahead, Dave. Thank you. I was at council's table. I was at council's table when this issue came up. And a councillor who's not rerunning, he was the one that brought up, the RCMP, and where, it didn't go anywhere. They have their own gym. But I stand up for the QP employees being able to use that gym. Healthy employees are better employees. They cost less to maintain. They don't get sick. They don't get hurt. They come to work on time. It's a facility that we own that doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't cost us anything because it's hard metal. The heat's on, the lights are on. What you're going to lose is revenue. But they may bring a friend. And I fully stand for the decision we made to allow our QP people and the library, because they're part of the same union, and they came to us and they said, how come we don't get it? So we allowed that. And we also gave the seniors 1 day a week every second Tuesday. So I fully stand behind that, keeping that project going. We need to have these types of things for our employees. There's all kinds of benefits that other corporations, large corporations have, BC Cal, et cetera, to keep their employees happy, and I'm proud of it. Thank you.
Stuart, would you like to address that?
Well, I'll certainly make a comment on that. We have a contract. We have, in fact, agreed to that, and until such time as that is renegotiated for whatever reason, it should stand.
All right, is there one more question? Yes. All right, so...
people of British Columbia are opposed to letting private corporations control and manage our water. At the 2011 convention of the Union of BC Municipalities, an overwhelming majority of the delegates endorsed a resolution supporting blue communities. A blue community takes the following actions: recognizes water as a human right, promotes publicly financed, owned, and operated water and wastewater services, and bans the sale of bottled water for public facilities and at municipal events. Question: are you in favor of Powell River taking the actions to become a blue community? And this is for everybody, please. Yes or no?
Yes. We have 3 councillors who are entitled to speak more at length, and then we'll ask everybody if they want to say their position. So, Debbie D., would you like to speak more at length at that?
I can speak about Thanks. So as I understand it, your question has to do with water and wastewater?
Becoming a blue community, such as Burnaby is.
So that's and banning bottled water
At public functions such as...
Yeah. I think I'm in favor of a lot of that. I don't think that we should ever privatize completely any of our services. I think we should not have plastic bottles of water. I don't think we should have plastic bags either. I think we need to do better at our composting and our recycling. I think we could work a long way over the next 3 years to become I'll do more research on this word, a blue community. Thanks.
Yes, we should go forward to be a blue community.
And Jim Palm.
Thank you, Paul. In terms of the definition of blue community, I'm not sure I heard all of the ramifications of that, but I can say in no uncertain terms that water is a life-sustaining commodity, a rare resource on this planet, and in our lifetime, I believe mine, it will be one of the hot issues as we go forward into the future. So, not having all the definition of what blue means, I can't say yes or no right now. I'd have to look at that. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank all the candidates for answering the questions. We are on to our last segment. Each candidate will now have 1 minute for closing remarks. We're going to start with the council candidates in reverse order from the openings, which means that, Debbie D., you are first.
Thanks. And thanks again for being here tonight. There was one person who emailed me earlier on today who had a question, and it had to do with our heritage sites. And as we all know, we lost a heritage site last week to an arsonist, and what we would do to protect the heritage sites. And I think it's a very important part of my portfolio is heritage, and I'd like to commend the Townsite Heritage Committee for the work that they've done, and everyone who lives there for such a beautiful place and keeping it that way. It's very difficult to protect anything from an arsonist, but I think we could look for some policies towards protecting our heritage sites and our buildings. And I just told her that I would answer that question for her because she didn't want to step up in public, and she did send it in an email, so we'll work towards that. As I said earlier, I think it's time that we addressed all our issues and we addressed them together. It's time to move back to a committee structure. It's time that the public had more participation in everything, and that's all I'd have to say. So please, no matter who you vote for, get out and vote. Take a friend with you. Let's get a big crowd out there and vote on November 19th. Thanks.
Next candidate, Russell Brewer.
I first want to thank you all for coming out tonight, and also want to echo what a couple people mentioned and thank everyone that's up here and presenting themselves to council, because it is evidently by the blogs and other things a thankless job at times. And I wouldn't question anyone's commitment up here. Someone raised the question of whether they would attend and be available. I'm sure all these candidates present themselves because they are willing to commit to the task. If you ask those that work with me, either in the public or private sectors or nonprofit organizations I mentioned earlier, they'll tell you that I'm diligent, respectful, committed, thoughtful, and a good listener. As one of your counselors, I will also do my homework, consult with others, and seek the facts before making a decision. I've presented myself for council to help realize the vision I have for a healthy, vibrant, culturally diverse, and respectful and sustainable community that I mentioned earlier in my opening. I look forward to you all giving me a chance to do so. And to answer the blue committee question, yes.
Jim Palm.
Thank you. I first want to say thank you to all three of the ratepayer groups for hosting this event tonight. I remember very vividly walking into Wildwood 3 years ago, and man, that was my first all candidates meeting, and I came out of there shaking. I want to thank Paul, all of the people that asked your questions respectfully, and the conduct that was exhibited here tonight was excellent. And there was all kinds of great questions asked, and I think you're very well informed, and you have some difficult choices to make ahead. I just want to say in closing, I don't have time to go over any of the issues that were brought up in question. I'd like to address a number of them. If you have time afterwards, and if you have any direct questions of me, don't hesitate to ask. And again, we hope to see you out at the polls, all of you, on November 19th or before at the early ballots. My name is Jim Palm. Thank you.
Next candidate for council, Maggie Hathaway.
No deals. I get the full time. Again, like everyone else, thank you so much for coming. I know sometimes this is a little difficult to sit through. I just wanted to set the record straight. I'm not meaning anything by this. Who knows where I'll end up, but I have never voted in favor of co-treatment. Thank you. For the committee structure, I campaigned on that last time, and I would like to see that instituted again. And the last thing I really want to talk about, I think everything else, I want to keep taxes down, you've heard all that, are my catalyst shares. This is such a controversial issue. If I really thought it was a conflict, I would certainly have declared it. My catalyst shares I inherited from my husband when he passed away. He had earned them on a profit share scheme at the mill. I have 173 shares worth $12.11. I tried to divest myself of them to my son, but it costs somewhere between $50 and $100 to do that. Did not seem realistic. So if anyone would like these shares, they're welcome to have them, and all they have to do is transfer them into their name. There is a section in the community charter that says if the pecuniary interest is so remote or insignificant that it cannot reasonably be regarded as likely to influence the member in relation to the matter, it is not a conflict. So I don't think $12.11 is going to influence me. Thank you.
Next up, Scott Lucky-Ensrick.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Well, it's very obvious there's a lot of important issues that we as a community need to deal with, whether it's referendums on co-treatment, ferries, flat tax, what we're going to do about industry and tourism, the homelessness problem. I'm hoping that more public input in committees. Let's all work together. If elected, I'm going to make this my full-time job. I'm going to stop working at the career I have now in order to be able to do this on a full-time basis. I'm very committed to being a councillor in this town, and I'm willing to put in the time and the effort. It's a bit of a learning curve as I'm new to this, but I'm on my way, and I've gotten some really great help from several members of the community, and thank you to them very much for helping me along this way. A few of the things I never got to say in my opening speech. The Blue Communities, I wanted to actually put that in my opening, but I didn't have time. And Blue Communities Initiative is something that was overwhelmingly supported at UBCM, and I am completely in favor of it as well. I just hope that as a community, as a council, we can all work together to make Powell River a better place. Thank you very much.
Chris McNaughton.
Well, thank you very much. We've covered a lot of issues this evening, and I think for me, I'm far too focused. I'm focused on building a strong economy for Powell River, jobs for families. The city has to be open for business investment, and that will be done with bylaws, procedures, and culture at City Hall. New revenue streams have to be developed to reduce the upward pressure on taxation. There's continued investment in business retention efforts that's needed. City capital projects have as much local content as possible has got to be an objective. The mayor and a team of entrepreneurial ambassadors need to go out and knock on doors of business and industry and invite them to invest in Powell River. We have an opportunity for the city to partner with School District 47 and VIU to find ways to dramatically expand their international education. The city needs to invite developers to invest in affordable, independent living developments and live-in-place residential care facilities that will create jobs, livable wage jobs in the healthcare industry. The province has to recognize that BC Ferries service is a part of the BC highway system. The cost of ridership has to be reduced, and the ferry has to be home ported in Powell River. There's so much to do, and there's no silver bullet, but on November the 19th, I'm asking for your continued support so we can get the job done. Thank you.
The next speaker, Myrna Leishman.
Thank you. A couple of questions that I didn't get to answer. On the homelessness issue, Sutton Home Society that I chair owns Olive DeVoe, which we will be getting back once the new facility is built. And I'm hoping that perhaps with working together with a lot of groups that we will be able to use that facility to answer some of our difficult questions with regards to homelessness and people that are living below the poverty line. So that's something that I've worked toward for many years. The other question that I didn't get to answer was regarding co-treatment, and I must say that I'm leaning toward a standalone public operated facility because I do believe that if the mill does go, even number 9 goes down, that we will be faced with some huge liabilities. And a lot of those questions haven't been answered yet. And because of the interest that the public has shown over this issue, there should have been a question given at this time as the referendum. I offer my experience, reasoned approach to decision making, listening to all sides, working in a team environment. So I ask you to consider a vote for me on November the 19th. And if you have any further questions, please call me. I'm in the phone book. Thank you.
And the last speaker as a council candidate is Gordon Crawford.
Thank you for being here. That's all I'll say about it. One, with the recreation complex, there isn't very many municipal employees that use that place. I've been there 27 years using that place, so I know who comes and who doesn't. I know we lost revenue when we started charging regional district more money. The early day fathers in 1973 decided they didn't want regional district part of the recreation complex. That's why we are what we are. Don't blame them, blame our city fathers, okay? Now, as far as the recreation complex is concerned, we have had so many, we have a pile this high, and I'm not exaggerating, of consultants come in. What is happening right now has happened 4 or 5 times. I was part of 2 of them, and I pushed them through. I know how to do it. I know finances, and it's embarrassing that I know how we sit, and these guys, and I haven't been in the job for 11 years, but I know how it works, and they don't want to talk about it. They got themselves in a big financial hole, and that's terrible. Secondly, the housing for the poor, that has been on the table long before murder got on. That's all the setup. We should have been helping the hospital to build all of DeVoe a heck of a lot sooner. We should have been there partnering with them, because that's the only industry that we can get in this town. For the first year, we will concentrate on making every department in the city efficient. And if certain people shouldn't be there, they shouldn't be there. We can't afford it. This is not a tax welfare system. We have to run efficiently. And I've done that before, and I was very successful at it. I'm running because I want to see changes. And I know what has to happen. And it has to happen with council as a whole. And to both mayors, they are ex-official members of every committee, so they should get their butt out there and attend them. They're paid, and they're paid a heck of a lot better than what a councillor is. And I work at it full time, and I always did. I was doing big contracts in the mill. I would leave my crew and come to a meeting because I'm dedicated no matter what I do. It's like the picture back there says, the puck stops here, I'm a goalie. Thank you very much.
Now on to the mayoral candidates in reverse order from the opening. Dave Formosa.
Thank you all very much for coming. And thank you for being a great crowd and a respectful crowd, and for all the good questions and the tough questions. My platform and what it is I say I will do is available. It might be available. Will it be available here? Do we have handouts again? No?
Only 5 left.
Oh, okay. So you'll have to watch for the newspaper or go to our website, www.votedaveformayor.ca. My platform is there. Let's think about this for a minute. If we took the cost of running the ferry from Sultry Bay to Earl's Cove, and I don't know what it is, but I want to find out. What if it's 1 million, 5 million, 10 million? I don't know. Whatever that number is, that number can debt service another number. That number we need to look at to see if we could actually build a road from here to the lower coast and create one economy. So we need to have a look at that. It might tell us quickly, nah, you're dreaming, Formosa, so we'll quit dreaming, we'll wake up and we'll get on to something else. But I think we need to look at that, and I want to. Young families, there's 25 or more young families now making good income. Maybe they can buy houses, they can go shopping, and they've got jobs in the mill. Powell River is closed. Some will say, you know, it would have closed anyway, or it was Powell River that was going to close. Regardless, I didn't want to take that chance. We have no highway going through us. So the work that we do with that mill, I believe, is important, and I will continue to do that, as I will with our own community, with all the jobs we have. We want to save all the jobs we can. We need to start, I'm not saying I don't dislike the portfolio system, but we got to go back to the committees where we have senior staff, we have our workers, our QP workers, our council, and our public on committees looking at these hard issues. And I believe we need to go back to that. I put my business aside for the last 3 years, like Beaver. If he was down the mill and he had a project, he left the mill. You talk to any of my senior staff, they don't even remember what I look like. I spent my time working at this city and traveling for this city. Look at my travel bills. They're the highest of all. And they weren't of my choice. I was directed to go. So, if you want me to work for you, I can go back and work for myself, part-time, because that's all I'll do for myself. But if you want me to go back, and if you want me to go and work for you, I'm prepared to do that. If not, Stuart's a great guy. He was born here like I was. He loves Powell River. Just get out and vote. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Pleasure to stand before you this evening. I want to just make 2 quick points here. The Blue Community Business, which was a resolution at UBCM, where we had 4 attending members. The actions are, first, recognizing water as a human right. Secondly, promoting publicly financed, owned, and operated water and wastewater services. And finally, banning the sale of bottled water in public facilities and at municipal events. You betcha, I'm for it. The next is that the comment about the portfolio system. Yes, this has worked in past, but people are saying change it round, and I agree. I think what I would be looking at here is to see chairs of working groups consisted of elected and appointed citizen attendees, and I think we can have that back slightly updated from what it once was. So I'm asking for your continued trust in me so that I can complete a sound fiscal plan for our city that will provide a stable and a secure financial base that will not unfairly burden the taxpayer. Most of us crave an honest conversation about our future. And for that reason, I ask for your continued support as we transition over the next 3 years to a new generation of leadership in this wonderful community. And thank you for being members of this wonderful community, contributing members of this wonderful community, and a community that probably has the greatest volunteers in the world. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you to the audience, to the candidates, to the ratepayers, to everybody. Good night.
Just one thing.
Thank you, Paul.
I'd like to thank